and turn it over to our lovely speakers today. Welcome, guys. Thank you all for coming out.
Oh, thank you for having us here today. So I'm Paul Jolet, and this is
Patricia Castillo.
Yeah, so we've been asked to talk a little bit today about de los Muertos, about the Ofrenda, and we built one here. Also, we're going to talk a little bit. We have a video of us constructing the Ofrenda, and we have some pictures of the different elements, and we'll talk about those elements as we go along.
And we're going to talk about the folk art for Dia de Muertos that we make. And it's been 5th generation since we started making this kind of folk art clay sculptures.
Yeah, so, Patty grew up from, 7 years old? By the time you were 7 years old, you were...
Since my childhood, I was 7 or 8 years old when I became acquainted to working with clay and painting with acrylics. And since then, I've been every day working, making my art. And Paul, he became an artist once we
after we got married. Shortly after we got married, we moved back to Mexico, Puebla, Mexico. And if you're with that family, if you're with their family, you're not going to just sit around and watch them. So they'll put you to work. And they did. They put me to work. I tried to paint the pieces like Patty does, and we'll show you some of those close-ups. I could not do it. I could make, some base colors, which they got me to do. But then they also put me into the taller back in the back where they were making the clay pieces, and I was helping out. And little by little, I learned to make the pieces that you see here, and then Patty paints them so we can continue that tradition. And more of that's going to be on the little video.
Mm-hmm.
We got discovered at the Texas Country Reporter show in Waxahachie a couple years ago. They fell in love with the pieces. They came to the house. We built an altar. You'll see it in the video. And they spent a couple of days here videoing that and interviewing us. And I think that's the first thing that's up.
Yes.
After that. So Bethany, if you could cue up perhaps the TCR video.
It's cultural between the Toltecs, Olmecs, and Aztecs. There was a combination of cultures that brought together what today we call an ofrenda for Dia de Muertos to celebrate our loved ones.
As a cold autumn wind blows through the Texas hill country, a trail of marigold blooms fights to stay in careful arrangement. This path of petals winds its way down the sidewalk, up the steps, and into the home of Patty Castillo, where the warmth of candles and the smell of incense and hot chocolate greet you. These cherished objects make up an altar for a cherished person.
We built the altar for my father, Alfonso Castillo, who passed away 10 years ago. In the altar, we put items that are his favorite things that he enjoyed when he was alive. We put chocolate, sweet bread called conchas, and we decorated with artwork that is part of his legacy.
Throughout parts of the U.S. and Mexico, families fill ofrendas with art and photos and food to celebrate the Mexican holiday Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead. Legend says that the scent of marigolds leads ancestral spirits back to our world, where they spend time near their loved ones. And for Patty and her husband Paul, love is what this tradition is all about.
When Patty and I are first dating, and we barely speak each other's language, and she says, well, I need to tell you something. Don't be afraid, but we paint dead people. And I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting summer because I didn't know just what she meant.
I was trying to tell him we paint clay sculptures that they're
Skeletons.
Day of the Dead is much more than a holiday in Patty's family. It's a way of life. For more than 5 generations, the Castillos have been known as fine folk artists whose work has spread from Puebla, Mexico, to museums all over the world. Now Patty and Paul continue that tradition in Bulverde, Texas, where their clay creations help other people celebrate the culture they love so much. Is it important to you to continue to explain your culture to other people through your art?
It is important because some people, they don't understand our culture, and when they see the skulls, they get afraid. But once that they get to know the meaning, they enjoy the meaning of the pieces behind the sculptures.
Did you realize you were in art school with her family?
No, I didn't know what was happening. I just thought I was there, dating my girlfriend, having a good time. And next thing you know, her father walks in and says, come here, I'm going to show you how to make a big piece. And so he lays it out on the table, and he shows me how to make all the pieces for it and then start to build it right there. And that was the beginning of where we are now.
The ceramic art they make together tells stories passed down for centuries, from the dance of the deer, to skulls with butterflies, to a traditional tree of life. Their pieces are rooted deep in Mexican folklore.
A tree of life that represents the culture in Mexico with different folk art dances. So my parents, they start getting ideas, adding new designs, new pieces, new colors.
With every clay form and brushstroke, Patty and Paul honor those who've come before us. Their bright, colorful creations are as vivid as your favorite memory of a loved one. And as Patty Castillo thinks about the generations that inspired her, she hopes to share the joy she feels every time their memory comes wandering home.
I want to transmit in each piece for someone to take it home, and when they see it, have that joy when they see the piece. I love doing this because I like painting, I like the colors, I like taking a small piece of clay and making something with it. It's also because my father, he passed away 10 years ago, and it's in a way to honor him, seeing and working with our hands. It's a tradition that we want to continue doing.
Okay, there you have it. That was our couple of days with
That's country
Texas Country Reporter. And I guess the next thing up would be having constructed the
Ofrenda that we
Ofrenda.
make, that you are seeing part of our Ofrenda for this year, and in memory of my father. You can see the picture is on top. That's my father, Alfonso Castillo, my grandmother, and Paul's
my grandparents, yeah.
and many of the items that we have put together here in the Ofrenda. We will talk about it while we are seeing the video that we put together for you to watch it.
Yeah, so Bethany, could you cue up the time lapse of the constructing of the ofrenda, please? So we spent about 3.5 hours working on this a couple days ago, and we got a head start because we knew we wanted to make a video, something we had never done before. So we kind of talked about where we were going to hang various pieces. We wanted to use this corner because it would be a good place to do this interview. And also there's some light over there that we can control. And we felt like that big table was a good place to put all of our pieces there.
The ofrenda, it comes from our ancestors. It was a pre-Hispanic ceremonial or culture or thing in Mexico. And we built, so it's different levels because according to our ancestors, there are different levels once a person passes away where you go through to get to heaven. And that's representing the different levels that a soul goes through when they pass away. And we're adding flowers to our altar. The marigolds are, the color of the marigold represents the light and the smell of the marigolds guides the souls to come home for Dia de Muertos.
And here I am tediously cutting all of the little, giving that poor little marigold bush a haircut. There's two of them there. So, and they can take it. So they've already opened up a few more blooms since that.
So when we think about building an altar, we are honoring 4 people in our ofrenda. And we think about the items that they cherished while they were amongst us. We add, because my father, he's the one, through his family generation, the one that he taught us the sculptures or folk art sculptures that we're making now. It's part of our ofrenda because of him. And my grandmother, she enjoyed mini sculptures, many items. So many of the things that you see on the table are her legacy. Like she loves chocolate, and we have put some items that they belong to her cup, and Paul's grandparents, Memo, she enjoys collecting stones from different parts of Louisiana.
The world. Is that correct? Yeah, everywhere. Yeah, we would collect them wherever we are and bring them to her. Yeah.
Next to her picture, I have painted a stone with red bird, cardinal bird. And so we have put some items that she enjoyed while she was alive. And there's Luna, our dog.
Yeah, she didn't appreciate us putting her toy there as part of the ofrenda, so she came and retrieved it and rescued it.
Yes.
And so I think the next thing to do is we have a slideshow of the different elements that we showed in that video clip. So if we queue up the slideshow, and then we can talk about each of the different elements one at a time. So here's the ofrenda as a whole view from the corner of the room. So the next slide. That shows the cross built of marigolds that starts the path. And what's that about, Patty?
And that's to welcome our beloved ones that are coming to visit our ofrenda. So it's an invitation for them to come safe to visit the ofrenda.
So we can move to the next slide. So that's the path, and the next slide, continuing on. Maybe I've got the slides out of order. How about the next slide? Okay, so that's the ofrenda. That was before the ofrenda as a whole. So now this is the ofrenda once we've come in, and this is from the floor level. And what do we have here, Patty?
In our ofrendas, we put incenso and saumerio. So it's something like this. So the one in the picture is different. In this saumerio, we put incense because incense also helps the souls or guidance to come to the altar at homes or cemeteries where a person is building their ofrenda for their loved ones.
Okay, the next slide. So on the next slide, we have the next level, and you see there in front of the Samario that's there, a little tray that has, there's a crystal and incense, some copal, which we had burning in there, but it's hard to keep the hard charcoal lit, and you don't want to use too much because it's not that good for an indoor environment, but so it went out. It was going there for a minute. What do we have here on the first level there, Patty? We have a few pieces.
We have a few pieces that they are representing also ofrendas that they were built in a cemetery. So, people put cherished items that they enjoy, like in the one on the right. They have fruit like watermelons, flowers, and candles. The candle is also a light that guides the souls to go to where people want to build an ofrenda to honor their loved ones. And the other one is also an ofrenda with fruit and candles and
the food probably that their loved one loved. Yeah. So the first time I ever came across any ofrendas, it was while I was going to high school and college here in San Antonio. But at first they were building them.
I need to cook it.
Oh, I thought it. Okay. Well, I was going to ask you a question with that. So whenever I first, we're going to have to plug in our laptop. I forgot to do that, and the battery's running out. So Patty's running off to get the plug, but I'll continue. Whenever I first encountered ofrendas, it was seeing them being built in the cemeteries in and around San Antonio. That's the first I had ever encountered anything like that. And then, of course, I went to Our Lady Lake University. A lot of folks there would build ofrendas there at the church that was there, or in the residence halls, or otherwise. So, Patty, which is the most? Yeah. Which is typically done in Mexico? Are they done? Do they do it at home, or they do it at the cemetery? What's usually done?
So they start building their ofrendas at cemeteries because that's where their loved ones are buried, and then people start also building them in their homes. I don't know why some people they were building it in the cemeteries and others at their homes. But like my grandma, she didn't have all her beloved ones in one place. They were in different cemeteries. So I think that's
made sense to build one altar at home and have all of them rather than have to go make a whole bunch of them. Okay. All right, next slide. It's just the top view of that top level. And what's back there? What are the two sculptures back there, Patty?
They represent, we call it the China Poblana. It's dresses that women in Mexico, they were wearing long time ago as a traditional clothes. And they are representing the type of traditional clothes from Puebla, Mexico.
Next slide. So now here's the third level off the ground, or the second level off the ground, with a whole bunch of items there. Patty, you have, I see salt in a little molcajete there. There's a little molcajete. What is the salt about?
The salt represents purification that helps the souls to return home safe. And then we have candles that, like I mentioned before, the light helps guide them on their way to the altar and on their way back to where they are at.
And then you have herbs there. Is the significance of that?
Some people put herbs because of the smell. It's a pleasant smell to help the souls bring memories as when they were living among us, and smells of herbs like the ones that we see here are rosemary and basil to help them help guide them to.
So I see some little, what look like little Muertos cats. What are those?
Everyone that had a pet and passed away, it's significance of their pets that pass away, and pets, they have their own
Personalities, yeah. And people have even purchased them for a pet that's still there because
Yes,
that particular little doll represents something in that personality that from their pet. And you have some skulls there. Anything significant about those?
Well, we can talk about the next one that you
On
will
the skull?
see.
Okay.
Yes.
We do that one later. And you have fruit there.
Yes, fruit, because my father, he enjoyed fruit.
He liked
My grandma
apples and
too.
oranges,
Mhm.
bananas, and all of that stuff. Next slide, please. Is there water in those little containers, or is that
No.
up on the next?
It's in the next.
So we have here our little doll, our little wooden doll that we've gotten for years and years, and he's trying to steal an apple and go back into his little container here. That was our kind of having fun. So that's part of the whole thing is, yes, we're honoring past loved ones, but it's also a celebration, something to have fun with and enjoy yourself. Next slide, please. And there are the two last tomatoes that we had on top of that bowl of fruit. We had a whole bunch of tomatoes we were growing in the backyard. We were just watching them change colors, and we woke up the day that we were going to build this altar, and the deer had come and eaten them all, except for those two last ones. So we were quite disappointed to find that we'd lost our whole tomato harvest, the best harvest we'd ever had in all the years that we've tried to grow tomatoes. Usually they don't grow until they start to freeze out and we have to pick them up, We don't know how to grow them. So that's what that's there for. Next slide, please. If you see something you want to talk about, let me know.
So there is the skulls, and so we have this skull that has monarch butterflies. There is a myth or legend that my ancestors, the Aztecs, believed that when a person passed away, their souls become monarch butterflies to fly to the next world, and they return for Dia de Muertos to visit their beloved ones. So this skull with monarch butterflies was created by my parents to represent the circle of life and death, and they decorated with monarch butterflies and caterpillars.
Anything else on you have glasses of wine. What's that about?
For them, that they enjoy wine.
Because your father liked both the red wine. There's a Gewürztraminer there, and a white wine Gewürztraminer, and a red wine. There's a Merlot. He loved them both. And you have the conchas, the bread that he loved. And
the small containers that they look green, they have water.
And so they have the water in them.
Yes. And the water is a source of life, and it helps the souls to help with their thirst from their journey to here. Come here.
Anything else on the table there?
The olla ecológica.
The olla. Oh, yeah.
So we have this item that my father, he created. He continued making this folk art, and it represents life from just flora, and it represents the small animals that they are so fragile. And he wanted to teach children to be nice with the little bugs, to protect them and enjoy what some people, they don't see frogs anymore in my hometown, Izúcar de Matamoros, because many people have covered the grounds with cement, so you can't hear frogs. And he says that he said that he wants to show an artwork that that will help people to be nice to little fragile animals, insects.
So it's his concern of the ecology.
Yes.
Anything else on the?
So you see something like this. This kind of work was representing my great-grandmother's. My great-grandmother, she was selling her fruits and vegetables, her crops that she was growing in her backyard. And she didn't have, or she didn't want to bring a table to the local market in Izúcar. So she will bring her eggs and tomatoes and herbs, and will put just a cloth on the floor, and she was selling her stuff there, and that's how she was making a living. And what else we have? Maybe we can move to the next.
The next slide, please. There's chocolate out there. So this is the other side with the concha, and there's a little plant there. What else, Patty?
We have the dancer. This represents a traditional or folkloric dance from Mexico. It's a dance of the jaguar, and people are still dressing like this outfit like a jaguar to make a dance. But it was a dance for crops, because they were thinking that the jaguar was coming to eat their corn or whatever they were planting. So they were dressing up like that to scare away the bad luck, or so they can get a good crop for the year, a good harvest.
Anything else on that slide? Next slide, please. So this is the side, my favorite side, has the chocolate. So that's chocolate we made in Puebla, right?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Yeah, so their family has, I'll say, their own recipe for the, what we call here Mexican chocolate. So they have you have your own recipe, and they have molina? Molino buy and grind all of the specific ingredients, and this one has a rare flower that grows in Puebla, in their little hometown in Izúcar de Matamoros, or near there. And what's the flower called? Do you know? It's a hard word to remember. I can't ever remember it. But so this chocolate has a little less sugar than usual, and it has this flower in it. So it's a very unique, and it's handmade by
my mother,
by her mom. Yeah. There at the house. What else you have? That's your grandmother's cup, her favorite cup.
Yes, that's my grandmother. She passed away, and she gave my mom many of her favorite dishes, and some of them, my mom, she gave them to me, and we cherish them. They're very old items that she collected.
So that's her favorite little jar and her favorite little cup, and in there was hot chocolate. Now it's just
cold.
chocolate drink. Anything else there, Patty? Next slide.
Next slide. So these small plants, I don't know what's their name, but I call them Lupitas because my grandma's name is Guadalupe, short for Lupita. And I remember that when I was a child, I came to visit her so many times, and one of the things I saw was the flowers. They were so beautiful, and it reminded me to her, and that's why I want to add them.
And then you have some candle holders there that we've made. And up top you have La Virgen
The Virgen de Guadalupe.
de Guadalupe. Yeah, absolutely.
Mini items because she likes to collect mini stuff.
So your grandmother liked she started that little mini collection.
Yes.
Patty continues that. She loves anything mini. Yes. She loves to carry on. I think there's one more slide or maybe two more slides. So that's just the left, that's that level from the left side there. And
we have candle holders. So the candle holders were artworks that my parents, in Izúcar de Matamoros, we have 14 churches or 14 barrios. They are 19 churches actually. And every barrio or colonia, they were making their own festivals for a celebration in the church. And when my parents start making, or when my great-grandparents start making the folk art, it was items that they were like the incense holder or the saumerio. And then people start coming to visit them and say, can you make me a candle holder? And that's how they start experimenting, making other kinds of artworks.
Because people had their own requests because the different saints would be represented by the different barrios.
Yes.
Okay, next slide, please. So this is the picture of your father, your grandmother, and my grandparents. That's what this is all about. All of that is about those folks right there.
In an ofrenda, when you want to build an ofrenda, you put pictures or a picture of the loved one that you want to honor. And in this case, we want to represent an ofrenda showing the picture of my father, Grandma Lupita, and Pepo and Memo.
And then I think there's maybe one more slide, two more slides. So you always have a cross because it's that's the main blessing of the whole table. Yes. So we've hung a cross there. This is from a very famous San Antonio artist who does glass work.
Enadina Vasquez.
Enadina Vasquez. There's also Country Reporter did a show on her, Adina Vasquez.
And you can see a little peek of the
papel
picado.
Papel picado. You always have to have that for some reason.
And you can see the drawings, but they have
the Day of the Dead motif.
The Muertos. Yes.
Last slide, I think, is the banner from the family. There's Veronica, Alfonso, Marco, Patricia, and Marta Angelica, and Alfonso, and Soledad and Marta. Those were all they're my teachers, and you as well. Okay, that should be it for the slideshow. Oh, and the banner is covered. On the banner, both of those banners, there are various trees of life that had been focused in museums or in publications or entered in competitions and that kind of thing. And the family just put together some banners because it's helpful when we have a show to have that kind of representation. I think, I think that's pretty much it.